Hey there, this is Waifu Patron Saint, and if you're watching this, you have some interest in getting good at Skullgirls. In this video, I'm going to talk about some gameplay mechanics in Skullgirls ranging from basic stuff, like teching throws, ground recovery, and team dynamics, to intermediate stuff, like how to combo with IPS and Undizzy, and then some more advanced stuff. So let's get started. Well, actually, before I get started, I want to make it clear that I'm going to assume you have some experience with the game, you know the characters. I'm just going to be focusing on gameplay, not necessarily how to play. So Skullgirls is a 6-button fighter. You have light, medium, heavy punch, and light, medium, heavy kick. You can perform throws and throw techs by pressing light punch and light kick simultaneously. If you don't know what throw teching is, there is a lesson about it in the game's tutorial. Basically, if you hit the throw input at the same time your opponent's trying to throw you, you break out of the throw for free. It's important to remember that in Skullgirls, you can block while airborne. This is something that you can't do in some games like Street Fighter. So in Street Fighter, jumping is considered a dangerous move, but in Skullgirls, you can jump, and it's generally pretty safe because you'll be able to block. You can push block on the ground and in the air by pushing any two punch buttons simultaneously while you're blocking. This will push your opponent away from you and create some distance, so it's a good thing to do to avoid getting caught by command grabs or mix-ups. It's especially important to do this against Cerebella because if you push block Cerebella, then she won't be able to perform any of her command grabs on you. Next up, there's ground teching. So when you fall on the ground, if you push the stick in a direction and press any button, you will bounce up off the ground in that direction. That allows you to recover faster, you can control your movement to get out of corners, and it gives your opponent less time to think about their next move. Alright, so let's get started with combos. Now, a combo in Skullgirls has 5 stages. You start off at stage 1, and as you perform more attacks and the combo gets longer, the combo stage advances. So the first consequence of combo staging is that your damage scales. This means that attacks earlier in a combo do more damage than attacks later in a combo. Combo staging also affects the burst mechanics, which are IPS and Undizzy. We'll go into more detail about these in a couple of slides, but be aware of the concept of staging because you need to know how stages work to really have a grasp on IPS and Undizzy. In combos, you get one OTG. An OTG is when you knock your opponent to the ground and they do not land on their feet, so they crumple. You can pick up one OTG per combo. So you can knock someone to the ground and knock them back up and keep on comboing. But on the second OTG, they will automatically get to recover. So let's demonstrate this quickly.
Good thing I dropped bomb.
And so you can see I tried to do a crouching light kick at the end of that combo, and it looked like it hit, but it didn't. Parasol just got up. That's because I had already spent my OTG for that combo. It's important to know how to perform a restand in order to maximize your combo potential and your reset potential. So we threw a couple of vocabulary words, so let's explain those. A restand is when you knock your opponent into the air and you get them to land on their feet, so it doesn't cost an OTG. Here is what a OTG looks like. Oh. Just do this one. So you can see Parasol never fell down. She landed standing, and so I could have kept my combo going longer because I hadn't used my OTG. Now, resetting is when you deliberately stop a combo and start a new one. And what this does is you're starting a brand new combo. So IPS, Undizzy, damage scaling, combo staging, all that resets to 0. Now, it sounds like a great idea to be able to do really, really long combos, but apart from the difficulties of doing that in Skullgirls because of IPS and Undizzy, you reach a point of diminishing returns where your hits aren't doing enough damage to make them worthwhile. You're putting in too much work for not enough damage. And so, by resetting, you can perform shorter, more effective combos that deal damage faster and build meter faster. Now let's talk about team mechanics. If you're playing with 2 or 3 characters on your team, then you have assists and tags available to you. You can perform a character's assist by pressing light kick and medium punch, or medium kick and heavy punch, depending on what assist you're throwing out. If you are playing on a team of 2, then those inputs are both going to do the same thing. They're only different when you're playing with 3. To perform a tag, you press medium punch, medium kick, or heavy punch, heavy kick, depending on the character that you want. Again, if you're playing with 2 characters, both inputs will do the same thing. Skullgirls allows you to perform snapbacks. A snapback is when you force an opponent to tag out their character and bring someone new in. Every character in Skullgirls can perform snapbacks. It's the same input for every character, and it always costs 1 bar. It's a quarter circle forward plus the tag command of the character you want your opponent to bring in. So here's a quick demonstration. So Parasol gets knocked out and Cerebella comes in. Now, you can also combo into these like this. So I would highly recommend trying to hit confirm into a snapback if you're planning on using one. Also, snapbacks can hit assists, but the assist is going to stay on screen. Now, this sounds a little weird, but it's going to be very important for a technique we'll talk about later. If you're playing with a team, it's incredibly important that you know how to perform a delayed hyper combo, also known as a DHC. So, raw tags, the ones where you just press medium punch, medium kick, or heavy punch, heavy kick, those are unsafe. And here's what I mean. When I tag into Philia, there's a point where she's standing on stage and cracking her knuckles, and Philia can get attacked during that time, and I won't be able to block. So raw tags are considered to be a poor thing to do because your characters are going to be vulnerable. You could potentially get punished. There's a lot that can go wrong with them. And you should not use them unless you're incredibly desperate or you're incredibly confident that it's a safe time to do one. A much better solution is to DHC. Now, a delayed hyper combo is when you cancel a character's super into another character's super. And this is a safe way to tag your characters, provided that the moves are actually hitting. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use Philia's Gregor Samson, and then I'm going to DHC into Cerebella's Diamond Dynamo. So to perform a DHC, all you have to do is perform the input of some super while you're in the middle of another one. So all I did was, in the middle of Gregor Samson, I did quarter circle forward and 2 punches, which is the input for Diamond Dynamo. Okay, now let's talk about IPS. This is a system in Skullgirls that allows you to burst out of infinite combos. Before we talk about how the game detects an infinite combo, let's see IPS in action.
Hold it.
I'm going to make sure this is set up properly. Yes, it is.
Let's go.
So I'm going to perform a combo as Philia that will trip IPS. So you can see at the end of that combo, I started attacking Parasol, and these red sparks began appearing, and then she eventually bursted out, which knocked me to the other side of the screen. What happened there is I tripped IPS. Let's talk about how I tripped it. Mike Z, the head designer of Skullgirls, sums up IPS in one sentence. Don't start a chain with something you already hit with, and your combo is always legit. When you're performing a combo, the first 2 stages are free. You cannot activate IPS, and whatever you do in those stages cannot be held against you for IPS. IPS begins tracking the moves you're performing at stage 3, but you can't activate it during stage 3. After that, IPS will activate if you start a chain with a move you have already used. So going back to this combo here... Oop. So at the end, when I did that jumping light punch, that was a move I had already used during stage 3, so that is why IPS activated. Now, IPS is great for preventing infinite combos, but eventually people discovered that you could do combos so long that they would kill your opponent at full health, even though they didn't trip IPS. Let's call these touch of death combos, because essentially, if someone is able to lead into one, your character is guaranteed to die. To get around these, a new system was added to Skullgirls on top of IPS called Undizzy, and Undizzy lets you burst out of touch of death combos. So let's perform another demonstration. I'm going to loop a grab reset over and over again just to build up Undizzy, and then when I start to extend off of it with a new chain, we will activate Undizzy. Pay attention to the little black bar underneath Parasol's health. So we got green sparks this time instead of red, and green sparks indicate Undizzy. Let's break down what happened. So, did you see that bar that was filling up underneath Parasol's health? That is the Undizzy gauge. Starting at combo stage 3, every move performed will slowly start to fill that gauge. Once the gauge is full, the victim of the combo gets to burst out at the start of the next chain. Now, it won't happen before stage 5, and you can still finish your current chain once it's full. This is why, even when the bar was full, I was able to keep on attacking without activating Undizzy, because it was still part of the current chain. Now, Undizzy drains while your opponent is in a neutral state. So I'm going to build up a little bit of Undizzy and stop attacking. Watch what happens to the bar. So when I stop attacking, the bar drains down. It doesn't instantly empty. If you go back and you watch what happened when Parasol bursted out, the bar instantly drained completely. There was no gradual draining. It just immediately went to 0. Okay, so we've talked about some basic gameplay mechanics, and then we've talked about the different combo systems in place. Let's talk about some intermediate and advanced techniques that you're not going to find in the game's tutorial. First of all, Pushblock Guard Canceling. After you perform a push block, there's a brief period of time where you can attack. So what this means is that you can push block somebody's move and then start punishing. It creates a ton of new opportunities to punish, but it can be a little risky if you do it improperly.
Just a moment.
So let's do a quick demonstration.
Quit lollygagging.
Withdraw. Just don't arrest me.
That didn't record. That recorded. Okay. So I'm going to Pushblock Guard Cancel Cerebella's Diamond Dynamo and punish it with my own super. Let's try that again. There we go. And you can combo off of this, so let's try another super. One more time. Forget it, good enough. So, as you can tell from me trying to demonstrate this, the timing is pretty tight for Pushblock Guard Canceling. Additionally, you need to be cautious of what moves you're trying to cancel into. You can do this with more than supers. You can do this with any move, any normal, any super, whatever. You just need to make sure that it's going to connect. And so this means you should try moves that have armor, moves that are invincible, or moves that have really fast startup times. Next up, alpha counters. Alpha countering is not like an advanced mechanical technique. It's something that's just in the game, plain and simple, but not a lot of people know about them or use them, so I'm going to throw it out there. While you're blocking, if you flick the stick forward and do a tag command, you can tag in another character and they'll perform their assist when they come in with 13 frames of invincibility. If you don't know what I mean when I'm talking about frames, the basic point I'm trying to make is you'll be briefly invincible when you come in. So let's switch to Cerebella. I'm going to perform an alpha counter on Cerebella's Diamond Dynamo. And so what happened there is I burned one bar, I switched into Philia, and Philia instantly started up her updo, which hit Cerebella. And like what I was trying to show with PVGCs, you can combo off of this.
That's my cue.
So I could have just kept on going if I landed that kick. Something else interesting about alpha counters is you can perform them while bursting. As soon as you hit the burst input, but before the burst actually happens, if you do the alpha counter input, you'll get an alpha counter before the burst actually happens. Now, earlier in this video, I mentioned that you can hit assist characters with snapbacks. Well, we can do some pretty crazy stuff with that. Let's do some experimenting and we'll build this up.
Hold it.
Okay, so we're going to...
Fight.
First of all, we're going to record the dummy.
Dynamo! Exeunt Stab! Titan Knuckle! That's my cue.
Oh no, I want it clean. There we go.
That's my cue.
Let's push Parasol into the corner.
Let's go.
Let's actually do it when we clear the save state.
Hold it. Quit
Now we'll hit
lollygagging.
both. So, we hit Parasol, and Parasol got knocked off screen. We also hit Cerebella, the assist. Now, snapbacks only knock the main character off screen. They can hit the assist, but the assist doesn't leave. They just get knocked down. So, now that we know that, can we try and hit the assist? Yeah, we can hit the assist. Now, what's great about that is that your opponent's not going to be controlling their assist character, so they can't block or anything like that. They're completely helpless. So theoretically, that means that we could kill the character and our opponent wouldn't be able to do anything to stop us. Well, except for maybe bursting out if we try to perform an infinite combo. This is where things get interesting. IPS and Undizzy do not affect assist characters. So I'm just going to block this and we'll switch to Cerebella and you'll see what I mean. So first of all, let's demonstrate a infinite combo with Cerebella. So as you can see, I was looping something where I would launch, I would do punches, I would restand, and I would launch again. And the game did not like that. Oh. There we go.
Yeah, right.
Okay, all set up. So, let's perform a snapback, and then we'll try and perform that infinite combo on the assist and see what happens.
Step right.
Hope that Titan Knuckle hit. No, it didn't. Oop.
Step right.
One more time. So I could have kept on doing that and eventually killed Sarabella. There's no way you'd be able to do that in a normal situation because that would have tripped IPS really, really early on. But because IPS and Undizzy do not affect assist characters, we could just perform that infinite loop and kill the assist. So it's kind of situational, but snapback infinites are definitely something to be aware of. Even if you don't use them, it's going to make you a lot more cautious of when you throw out assists, knowing that there is a possibility of this happening. Last thing I want to talk about is burst baiting. So, IPS and Undizzy bursts are great for making the game feel fair, so to speak. Nobody likes getting caught in a crazy combo, so it's nice to know that you can get out. At the same time, though, it would be kind of lame if you'd be able to just get out of any combo scot-free by bursting when you get the chance. That's why it's possible to burst bait, and this is when you get your opponent to activate their burst and you don't actually get hit by it. So here's how it works. When a character performs a burst, they're invincible during the burst startup, but there is a pretty lengthy recovery period of around 1 second where they're completely vulnerable. So during that vulnerability period, you can attack the character, but when they burst, that will ideally knock you to the other side of the screen, so you won't be able to hit them from that far away. Well, if you can find a way to avoid getting knocked back by the burst, you could just jump up and start attacking the character while they're in recovery, which will reset your combo. And remember that because bursts completely reset the combo, they reset Undizzy, everything goes to 0, you have a fresh slate. You can just go ham on your opponent all over again. Now, burst baiting is kind of tricky because you need to know how moves behave with each other in terms of how you're hitting and how your character's moving during the attack. And there's also the question of whether your opponent's going to fall for it. But if you're able to perform a burst bait, not only can you get a lot of damage in, but it's really going to mess with your opponent's head because they'll be way more paranoid about performing bursts later on. So that's everything that I wanted to talk about, but I also want to point you to some other good learning resources for Skullgirls. First of all, if you have not played the game's tutorial, you should do this immediately after watching this video. The tutorial is a great introduction to how to play Skullgirls and how to play fighting games in general. It goes over both core mechanics and fundamentals. Also, if you want to learn how to play a new character, then the character lessons are a good place to start because they'll go over how the character works in detail, they go over how all their supers work, and for complicated characters, like Squiggly with all the different stance cancels and stuff, the tutorial goes over how those work in pretty good detail. Next up, there's Skullheart. Skullheart is the game's official form, and it's more or less the heart of the Skullgirls scene. There are a lot of great resources on there for both beginners and advanced players. So if you're looking for a character guide, if you're looking for burst baits, if you're looking for combos, you can find it on Skullheart. Lastly, there is Reddit. The Our Skullgirls subreddit might not be as big as Skullheart, but it's definitely pretty friendly towards new players. The Our Skullgirls community also runs a variety of events that are aimed at newer players, such as newbie night tournaments and my own Get Good lobby night, where I arrange matches between beginners and I give them suggestions on how to play better. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, then contact me on Reddit, comment on the video, just let your voice be heard, and I'll try and get back to you and give you a hand. Otherwise, that's all I have to say, so good luck, have fun, and I'll see you next time.